You are the people in history they warned us about! Pay attention!
Get ready. It's time for the Other American View podcast, your audience participation podcast. We're going to go over the headline news, focus on trending stories, add a little commentary, maybe some quick-witted humor, and of course, politics. We're going to cover your crazy government, and we're going to go into everyone's favorite, sports. You'll hear the rants.
Every goddamn thing is politics and race, and I'm losing my mind over it. Just want to watch sport.
The views.
The problem with humanity today is ignorance, arrogance, and apathy. Keep taking the road of least resistance. Keep listening to the TV brainwashing you from birth.
And some craziness from the people who want to participate.
No! To tell me that you have a doctor's note not to wear this?
The man will always be number one in my book. God damn me.
So get ready, buckle up, and let's go for a ride. As always, and it will be going forward for God knows how long, again, is the war going on with Russia and Ukraine. As Reuters report, in Ukraine, nuclear reactors are being shut down. This was after a fire was apparently near the facility. New York Post reports Ukraine President Zelensky survives 3 assassination attempts in a week. Huffington Post is reporting Ukrainians in U.S. to be protected from deportation to war-torn homeland. Well, probably should. Then again, if they're here illegally, if you're illegal, you're illegal. Should be gone. CNN reports Biden is vowing to seize Russian oligarch yachts. Yeah, well, that's going to do a lot. As we continue to pay Russia God knows how many millions of dollars for the barrels of oil they're sending us. This is a shocking headline from The Guardian. California proposal would force unhoused people into treatment. I definitely got to look at this because they allow these people to just sleep and do whatever the hell they want on the streets. But of course, there's a snafu to this. Here's how it goes. California Governor Gavin Newsom has proposed a court program that would force unhoused people with severe mental illnesses and addiction disorders into treatment. The moves come in response to worsening humanitarian crisis of people living in the streets, but has raised concerns from disability rights and civil liberties advocates. The plan would create a care court requiring people with serious mental health challenges such as schizophrenia to accept treatment while also mandating that counties provide services, Newsom said when announcing the program. If people don't follow through with forced treatment, they could be placed into conservatorships, a form of court-appointed guardianship that strips people of their rights to make basic decisions about their lives and care. Homelessness crisis has become the top issue in political races across the state. There's growing encampments and more visible signs of people struggling with mental illness on the streets. Some officials have responded with sweeps of tent communities and new policies prohibiting camping in certain locations, individuals from sleeping outside. This is like a total fucking joke. Mental illnesses and addiction. It's what we've been saying all along on the Other American View. They're doing a disservice to any homeless person that's on the street, regardless of mental illness or addiction. It's a disservice to the citizens who live there, the business owners, the people visiting the city. You need to build encampments where there's a hospital on that encampment. There's living facilities, even if it's a 2-room facility with a dinette and a bathroom and a bedroom and a living room. Better than being on the street. And you triage these people to determine what they have, and you put them into different groups and get them treatment, get them unaddicted. Did they have hard luck financially? Get them developed so that they can go back into the real world again, but they have to stay in those encampments. It's so easy, my head's gonna fucking explode. Reuters has reported the jury acquits only Louisville officer charged in Brianna Taylor raid. A Kentucky jury acquitted a white former detective of endangering neighbors of Brianna Taylor during a botched raid that killed the black woman in her home, clearing law enforcement of all criminal liability in a case that has rocked the U.S. in 2020. Detective Brett Hankinson, 45, whose stray bullets hit a neighboring apartment in the city of Louisville during the execution of a no-knock search warrant after midnight, was the only officer charged in the case with wanton endangerment. Goes on to say Hankinson could be heard sobbing behind his face mask as the verdict was read 3 times, one for each of the occupants of the neighboring apartment, according to the court TV reporter who was in the courtroom. Well, we're going to see what type of protests start to develop, rallies, riots. God only knows what's going to happen next. This guy will never be a detective again. You're going to watch. He's going to pack up and just totally disappear. New York Post, White House weighs sending Vice President Harris to Poland, Romania as Ukraine war wages. Total waste of fucking time. She's going to accomplish nothing. She's a total embarrassment. Of course, we're still waiting for her to solve the border crisis. Same one that Biden finally acknowledged. Fucking idiot. The Hill is reporting Jon Stewart on thinking about running for office. How do you not when you look at who's there? Well, it wouldn't surprise me if he does get in. He's a pretty well-known name. Entertainment segued into political entertainment and some causes down in Washington. Hey, why not? You listen to these fucking idiots over there that we have. It's on both sides. Probably he's going to win, too. I wouldn't doubt it. Like to see him get in and raise a stink. CNN Politics reports Florida legislature passes bill banning abortions after 15 weeks. So the Florida state legislature passed a bill that will ban most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, allowing only for exceptions involving serious risk to pregnant person and fatal fetal abnormality, but with no exception for rape or incest. Gotta be kidding me on that one. Why the fuck wouldn't you allow somebody who got raped or incest to go have an abortion? Gotta be out of your fucking mind. You've been traumatized and your life is probably wrecked forever because of the rape itself. Now you're gonna have some fucking child in you? What are you, out of your mind? Who are these people making these decisions? It's when you you go to another state that allows abortions and you just go get one. People have no fucking brains whatsoever that voted on it. Who voted on it? Was it all men? I mean, come on. So Florida joins West Virginia and Arizona as conservative-led states, advancing a 15-week abortion ban this session as the U.S. Supreme Court appears poised to uphold a similar Mississippi law that bars abortions after 15 weeks. NPR is reporting Arizona Republicans continue pushing voting restrictions, risking backfire. Wonder what the restrictions are. So it's a large article, and there's nothing in it but a bunch of fluff and bullshit about historical suppression and this and that. Couldn't find any true specifics in it. So all they want to do is use the word suppress, suppress, suppress. Anytime you want to change something. The only thing I see in here is about the bill is it ranges from a measure to require all ballots be hand counted to restrictions on ballot drop-off boxes. Okay, we got a problem fucking hand counting something and drop-off boxes. You just have drop-off boxes within certain miles of each other, and if the fucking people just don't go out and vote, that's on them. I mean, give us a goddamn break. So what you're saying is anybody who can't vote is suppressed and it's discrimination against them. So you're basically saying they're not capable of having a photo ID and utilizing transportation, public, someone else or their own, or walking, depending on where they are, to go vote. It's totally fucking mind-blowing, this narrative in the media that you see all the time, just blasting down your throats, restricting, Jim Crow, this and that. It's all a bunch of fucking garbage. If you consider yourself equal, get your ass out and vote. Cut the crap now. 538's reporting Americans care about the invasion of Ukraine, but that doesn't mean they will rally around Biden. Of course not. We're not going to rally around this guy. Every decision he makes is a fucking disaster. You have to question every single thing he does. Look what he did on the withdrawal of Afghanistan. There's a video out there from when he was running for one of his, 4 presidential elections. And he's sitting there saying, well, it must have been with the Gulf War, saying, oh, well, we got to withdraw all our people and the citizens that are there. And then we got to withdraw all the equipment and our military people. Because why? He goes, because then they're going to turn around and use it on you if you leave all the equipment. That's this fucking asshole years earlier talking about how to withdraw from a war. And what does he fucking do? leaves billions of dollars of equipment there. People are getting killed. Citizens and people who helped us are left behind. So you have to question every single fucking thing this guy does. His State of the Union was a complete joke. All of a sudden, now there's a fucking border crisis. We got to get a proper system in place. Really? So I guess Trump's wasn't working. Remain in Mexico and building a fucking wall. It proved to slow things down of illegal crossings. But no, this asshole, oh, how do I fix it? Oh, just reverse everything Trump did and just open the floodgates and send Kamala to some freaking fluff point and say you're working on it. It's a total fucking lie to everybody, and it's a joke. The sad part is the people who do pay attention see it's a lie on the Republican side, and the Democrats are just fucking dumbfounded and blind that voted for this guy, and they're like, oh God, oh well, okay, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And all the people who don't even pay attention to this stuff just listen to sound bites on the TV, and all the sound bites are nothing but just fucking lies. The Hill reports Texas judge rules Biden administration can't exempt migrant children from Trump-era order. A Texas judge ruled that the Biden administration cannot exempt unaccompanied migrant children from Trump-era order, a decision that could lead to U.S. border to turn children away. So during the early part of the pandemic, former President Trump launched Title 42, a controversial public health policy that would allow the U.S. to immediately expel migrants who came across to the border. The Biden administration has continued to operate under that order, but carved out an exception for unaccompanied migrant children. However, Texas District Court Judge Mark Pittman, a Trump appointee, ruled against Title 42 exemption. Pittman said that the Biden administration did not thoroughly justify the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention orders that codified the exclusion of unaccompanied minors from Title 42, calling them arbitrary and capricious. Pittman also argued that Texas had been financially hit as a result of the exemption due to education and medical costs for migrant children now living in the state. The ruling comes hours after a Washington, D.C. judge ruled against the Biden administration from using Title 42 to expel migrants back to countries where they may face persecution. The decision marks the latest instance in which Texas has successfully blocked the Biden administration immigration initiatives. Good. You need to block fucking everything. Enough of this bullshit. Got this fucking clown during his speech saying, oh, we have to put in place a border protection and make it work, or whatever the fuck he said. How in the world can you just sit there during your presidency, never go to the border, send some clown over to a point where there's hardly anything going on, and just turn blind eye to what's going on down in the South? It's your own country. You care more about other things in other countries than you do in your own. Flying these people in the middle of the night and just dropping them in cities. It's pathetic. It's so sickening that what this guy has done to our country. It's just basic common sense to protect your borders of your country, and he can't even do that. Common sense, people. The Texas Tribune reports Houston hospital pauses hormone therapy for transgender children as threats of child abuse investigation looms. Citing potential criminal penalties, Texas Children's Hospital will no longer provide hormone therapy to transgender patients. Goes on to say Texas Children's Hospital in Houston has stopped providing hormone therapy to transgender children after Governor Abbott directed the state's child welfare agency to open up a child abuse investigation into parents who provide gender-affirming care to their children. This step was taken to safeguard our healthcare professionals and impacted families from potential criminal legal ramification, a spokesperson for the hospital wrote in a statement. Abbott's directive cited a non-binding legal option from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who classified gender-affirming care as child abuse. Most gender-affirming care focuses on social transition, allowing a child to express their gender however they see fit. Some children are also given puberty blockers to completely reversible prescription that has been used for decades to delay early onset puberty. Paxton's opinion also said body modification surgeries could be considered child abuse, but medical experts say those are rarely, if ever, performed on children. This whole thing is fucking sick. There's absolutely no way at all any parent should authorize and allow their child to go through any type of therapy to change and block puberty, surgeries, you name it. There shouldn't be anything done to a child. Period. When they're 18, you can do whatever the fuck you want. That is fine. This is how you were born. Did you think the fucking cavemen and before modern medicine kicked in place, people were sitting there pumping whatever they can in their body thinking they're going to change their gender? I mean, what am I missing here? This is the way you were born. So some people were born as a male and they perfectly feel fine as a male. They identify as a male. They act like a male, whatever that may be. They're born as a female and they are a female. And then there are people born female or a male and they may feel or whatever's going on in them that they're the opposite. Well, guess what? That's exactly how you were born. Someone who feels they're opposite. So the question is, can you actually change yourself by yourself? Physically, scientifically. That's the way you were born. It is what it is. The other American view personally just doesn't care. But the fact that you're going to put in the hands your child to a doctor and say, yeah, this is what my child feels, thinks, or even knows they are, now just go start changing them. No, wait till they're 18. They can do whatever they want. And then here's a funny headline. Reuters reports Kremlin says the West is behaving like bandits. You gotta be kidding me. We're gonna first of all put this in a headline. Who gives a shit what Putin says? This guy's going in and destroying a country to take it over and he's talking about other countries? You gotta be kidding me. Reuters also reports climate change. COVID loom over Alaska's 50th annual Iditarod sled dog race. Well, without digging into it, obviously it's going to say it's not cold enough. But we heard about climate change, and we brought this up in one of our other podcasts. We had a total shutdown for basically a year. We had the least amount of carbon emissions in 100 years or so, but yet our weather pattern has gone crazy or warmer, whatever you want to call it. So what's the explanation for that? That's what I'm waiting for. You heard nothing about that. I never saw the skies so blue around New York City during the pandemic. So you basically had 12 months of cleaning the atmosphere, and yet our temperatures didn't change back, so to speak, even slightly, a half a degree towards whatever they deem as normal. And the question is, what is normal? Is normal maybe the first 15 to 20 years they started tracking temperatures? I want to know, are they measuring the sun's power? Is the sun's power becoming greater over time? Is our rotation of the earth getting closer to the sun? You don't hear any mention of those two factors when we're getting warmer. I don't doubt the emissions are causing a problem, but you never hear those other factors involved when they're making all these claims of climate change. Gotta love this headline. New York Post. States sue Biden administration over FBI surveillance of parents protesting school boards. 13 states have signed on to a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit seeking Biden administration records on any FBI surveillance of parents protesting school boards. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, a former member of Congress, has taken the lead in the lawsuit against President Biden, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and Education Secretary Miguel Cardona, citing a failure of U.S. officials to honor FOIA requests. The Indiana Attorney General previously demanded all communications and records relating to the FBI's decision to investigate violent threats against local education officials. We just want the facts, Rokita told Fox News Digital. Rather than cooperate, the Biden administration sought to conceal and downplay culpability. What are they hiding? Why don't they come clean? Hoosiers and all Americans deserve to know. So the plaintiffs in the case are Indiana, Arkansas, Arizona, Georgia, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and Utah. It says Cardona solicited the National School Board Association much criticized letter to Biden that compared protesting parents to domestic terrorists and suggested using the Patriot Act against them, according to an email exchange first reported by Fox News Digital. The Education Department has denied that Cardona solicited the letter, and the NSBA has apologized for its language comparing passionate parents to domestic terrorists in the original letter. What a bunch of fucking bullshit that is. So it says days after the NSBA sent its letter to Biden, Garland sent a memo directing the FBI to mobilize in support of local education officials. During a testimony before a congressional committee in October, Garland denied using the domestic terrorist label. Your government is a buying entity for their own initiatives, people. You need to wake up. They're utilizing all the functions of government and departments for their needs. They're all in cahoots. They're crooks. They're criminals. That's what your leaders are. Your departments are corrupt. They're in alignment with those corrupt officials. There's such abuse of power. They don't want this stuff to get out because the people don't already trust the government now. And if your departments, such as the FBI, are doing these things that are outside the scope of what they're to be doing and violating different acts and laws, you're going to have total chaos as the years go by in this country. We have a bunch of pathetic people. Look at the Hillary Clinton scandal with the Steele dossier and everything else that's been going on. All fabricated and made up. And then they put your president through an impeachment bullshit because of it. Totally fabricated, and this is what they do. Utilizing your tax dollars against you, the people who are protesting and have a right to protest. It's time to wake up, people. Vote every single politician out after one term, regardless of what they do. I'm going to say this on every goddamn podcast until you wake up. Do not vote for the front runners. Go down to the middle of the pack and vote for the person that's not a politician or never served a public office. They can figure it out. They have common sense. You don't need to have the knowledge of being a prior politician to go to Washington. Sorry, don't buy that bullshit. Look what President Trump did. Never served a public office, and he served the highest position in the world, and he was able to do it. I'm talking about your House of Representatives and your senators. So vote in people who never served office, that speak well and have great common sense, and send the message of what they're going to try to accomplish going into Washington if it's in alignment with what you want. They have nothing to gain. They have no cronies in Washington. They're not part of parties that are totally backing them. I mean, they're part of the party, but they don't want them. They want the front runners. So that's why you go down to the middle of the pack. All right, enough of my rant. New York Post is also reporting Supreme Court reinstates death penalty for Boston Marathon bomber. Good. Why the fuck is this guy still alive today? How many years is it? I have no idea, but it's just pathetic. We allow people that they can substantially prove of a killing to still have your tax dollars paying for them, feeding them, housing them, giving them medical attention, and they're still alive. It's mind-blowing. And the war between Russia and the Ukraine continues to have an impact on all sectors. And there, the AP reports MasterCard Visa suspend operations in Russia after invasion. MasterCard said cards issued by Russian banks will no longer be supported by its network, and any MasterCard issued outside the country will not work at Russian stores or ATMs. We don't take this decision lightly, MasterCard said in a statement, adding that it made the move after discussions with customers, partners, and governments. Visa said it is working with clients and partners in Russia to cease all Visa transactions over the coming days. We are compelled to act following Russia's unprovoked invasion of the Ukraine and the unacceptable events that we have witnessed, said Visa Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Al Kelly said in a statement. And this headline that we had just read leads us into the next headline because this is the impact that it's having. Reuters is reporting Russian banks rush to switch to Chinese card system. It says several Russian banks said they would soon start issuing cards using Chinese Union Pay card operator system coupled with Russia's own Mir network after Visa and MasterCard said they were suspending operations in Russia. Well, there you go. What does this tell us? Number one, if China does this, they're in cahoots with Russia, right? But more importantly, there is no news outlets or very limited reporting on the war in Russia. So the Russian citizens who are not informed, they're feeling this impact in several ways because of all the sanctions and restrictions that are now being imposed by all the countries around the world against them. This is only going to cause more uprisings in additions to the protests that are going on in Russia, and then Putin's going to feel the pressure to either pull out or do something else. In essence, he's going to lose his country. And this unbelievable headline, New York Post, gunman who killed his 3 daughters in California church was in U.S. illegally. Fantastic. This is how fucked up our country is and our states are. Says a gunman who killed his 3 daughters and another man in a church in Northern California was in the U.S. illegally and had not been handed over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement after a prior arrest due to California's sanctuary state law that limits cooperation with federal immigration enforcement authorities said. Well, Califreakia has come into effect. And there's your ripple effect because of our country being fucked up. Our states are fucked up. And now you got these people here illegally. Our federal and state enforcements are just not cooperating due to some ridiculous laws. And what is the effect? Innocent people are killed. So how did it all happen? The Sacramento County Sheriff's Office said that David Fidel Mora Rojas was in the country illegally and was arrested for driving under the influence, assaulting an officer and a medical staff. ICE issued a detainer, a request that the suspect be held until the agency can transfer him into custody and put him into deportation proceedings. However, due to a California sanctuary state law, authorities said they were barred from holding him or communicating with ICE about the release, and he left on bail on a $15,000 bond. So the daughters that were killed were 9, 10, and 13. Sick. Sick state, sick people, sick fucking everything. People should be just going berserk on. This is what your leadership puts in place. They're doing nothing for you, the citizen, nothing for this country. Everything is to support the illegals and the criminals in this country. And this is what your leadership is doing, people. You got to wake up. And here's an interesting one. CNBC. Shell defends decision to buy discounted oil from Russia. Shell purchased 100,000 metric tons of the flagship Urals crude from Russia. It was reportedly bought at a record discount, with many firms shunning Russian oil due to Moscow's unprovoked invasion of the Ukraine. The purchase did not violate any Western sanctions. So that's why Russia discounted it. Nobody's buying it, so they're discounting it, and Shell jumps on it. This is the greed of these companies. Goes on to say they had sought to defend its decision to buy heavily discounted consignment of oil from Russia, saying it would commit the profits to fund dedicated to humanitarian aid for Ukraine. They had been in intense talks with the governments and continue to follow their guidance around the issue of security of supply and are acutely aware we have to navigate this dilemma with the utmost care. We didn't take this decision lightly, and we understand the strength of feeling around it. So they're facing heavy criticism from the Ukraine foreign minister, who wants companies to cut all business ties with Russia. It goes on to say, one question to Shell: doesn't Russian oil smell like Ukrainian blood for you? There you go. Anything for the almighty dollar. But most people won't know anything about this. They'll still pull into the Shell gas stations and get their gas. Shell will keep their price inflated to what everybody else has theirs, and they'll have that discounted oil. They're going to make even more profits. What are they going to do for the Ukraine? Russia's taking that money and buying or building more military weapons and utilizing it towards the invasion. What the hell's Shell going to do? Give money to the Red Cross, who's going to go over there and try to help them? Daily Beast is reporting SNL, Saturday Night Live, brutally mocks Trump, Tucker Carlson, and Laura Ingraham. Sick Putin praise. How come they don't do any skits about Biden and Kamala? They totally ripped Trump when he was president. The guy's not a president anymore. He's a U.S. citizen. He's totally silenced by Twitter and all these outlets. So why do they keep bringing this guy into the picture? And how come they're not doing anything with Biden? Anything for ratings, and it goes to show you which side SNL is on. The Hill is reporting Utah's Republican governor pledges to veto transgender sports ban. Goes on to say he vowed to veto an amended proposal that passed the state legislature prohibiting transgender girls from playing on sports teams that correspond with their gender identity. We deeply care about Utah's female athletes and our LGBTQ plus community. To those hurting tonight, it's going to be okay. We are going to help you get through this. Please reach out if you need help. The legislation prohibits a student of the male sex from competing against other school on team designated for female students, and defines sex as a biological, physical condition of being a male or female determined by an individual's genetic and anatomy at birth. It says similar pieces of legislation have been signed by Republican Governors Kristi Noem of South Dakota and Kim Reynolds of Iowa. This bill has been an important priority for a lot of people behind me, Noem said, and I appreciate all of their hard work in making sure that girls will always have the opportunity to play in girls' sports in South Dakota and have had the opportunity for a level playing field, for fairness that gives them the chance to experience success. Sorry, people, it's just totally ridiculous. If there's going to be transgender athletes or people that are transgender, create a transgender group, period. It's so simple. The inferior sex should have the opportunity to compete in the superior, but they will never win. The superior sex, whether it's male or transgender, is going to always be superior to the inferior sex. It's common sense. So cut the shit and just create transgender sports, and it solves the fucking problem. I'm not sure with this next headline if this guy has gone off the deep end. He's got a big hill to climb here. Unless he has some wild smoking gun evidence, he's probably going to be bankrupt funding this claim. Daily Beast reports Mike Lindell claims he will sue all voting machines to prove big lie. He was supporting Arizona GOP gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake. During his slot, he said an unspecified 5-month quest has finally reached a result, a class action lawsuit against all machines, their defective devices. He said he's claimed he's gotten about 300 county officials nationwide on board, and we're going to get rid of these machines once and for all for any election in history. He added one qualifier: all voting machines. It is a defective product class action lawsuit. Well, Mike, good luck. The Other American View does feel that there has been funny business going on in all elections in history. What has happened here with the Trump-Biden, not sure. I think both sides are skeptical on speaking out against corruption of an election. Each side has probably benefited from some type of scandal, corruption, or bogus machines. And if either side has a quarter of a brain, which they kind of don't, and they put it out there and prove that any election for either side was corrupt, you're going to lose the people of the United States. So it's probably a dirty little lie in Washington, and as we have always advocated, Washington is a different world, a different planet, and the people of the United States don't know what's really going on behind the doors. Today's show would not be possible without your support. Your contributions to Patreon, to The Other American View, will help this show continue to prosper. The best way to help is to go to theotheramericanview.com and click on a Patreon button and see what tier is right for you. The other way to get to The Other American View on Patreon is go to Patreon/The Other American View. Once again, Patreon/The Other American View. Also on theotheramericanview.com in our contact section, please send us your views on any subject or topic that you want to talk about, rant about, get on the show, or for us to spotlight on our show. This is the Audience Participation Podcast. It's your opportunity to be involved. For those who went to theotheramericanview.com and clicked on the Patreon button, time for the shout-outs for this week. In our visionary tier, we have Harold R. out of St. Louis, Missouri, and Wendell G. out of New Mexico. In our proud supporter tier, we have Charles Z. out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Shane P. from Decatur, Illinois. In our Pay It Forward, we have Sammy G. out of New Jersey. So once again, I want to thank everyone who contributed, and also please go to theotheramericanview.com, click on the Patreon button, see what tier is right for you. There's a tier for everyone. Now let's continue on with the show. Time for sports headlines. Of course, the March Madness is now coming upon us, and the Chicago Tribune is reporting Loyola is healthy again and ready for the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament and has Sister Jean along for another ride. Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt will be in the house this weekend in St. Louis as Loyola attempts to head back to the NCAA tournament for the third time in 5 years. She's fired up and ready to go, Ramblers coach Drew Valentine said. And here's the unbelievable part. It says the 102-year-old team chaplain became famous during the team's Final Four run in 2018 and was back in the national limelight last March in Indianapolis, where she predicted Loyola's upset win over top-seeded Illinois in the second round. She definitely takes the pressure off of us, Valentine said with a smile. Well, this will be an interesting side story to the NCAA tournament if they can get in. They got to win their conference championship. And this is a good one. Had no idea. Interesting sidebar. USA Today, Bengals assistant coach not happy with Evan McPherson, Darren Harris for staying on the field to watch the Super Bowl halftime show. Well, don't know what's going to happen with them, but not really going to dig into this article. They should be fined, period. And if they're bit players, just cut them. 12 Up is reporting Giants could end up trading Saquon Barkley. Well, the Other American View podcast is New Jersey based, so we get all the Giant headlines, and that's what's been going on in the last several days. Obviously, with the draft coming up, the combine, you name it, all the offseason activity hasn't helped the Giants. Saquon, he couldn't stay on the field half the time. You have new leaders, a new coach, a new GM. I would sit there and evaluate all these people, start from scratch, see what kind of value he's commanding out there. And then you have to weigh the fact that, do you let him play another year, get his value up more, and then you can trade him and do a la Jimmy Johnson with the Herschel Walker trade and just get some key players and some draft picks and continue building your team. Giants fans, you could forget it. They really should take a slower, methodical approach and just rebuild this whole team. Let us know what you think. Go to theotheramericanview.com. Go to the contact section and let us know. Should they keep Saquon or trade him? And some more NFL offseason headlines. You got Essentially Sports saying he's spoiled. Larry Fitzgerald Sr. criticizes Kyler Murray for his recent drama with the Arizona Cardinals. Well, now everything's catching up with him. They're starting to rip him for his play and his performance in December and going into the playoffs. Can a short quarterback actually do anything for you and win? Best thing he could have did was just keep his mouth shut, work hard, because he's looking for that big contract. But if I was Arizona, I don't know, I would just play him out. I wouldn't give him an extension. He doesn't command an extension like Rodgers or any of these top flight quarterbacks that start complaining. You've only been in the league for a few years. You still got to prove yourself and win something. And here's a Who Cares headline from Clutch Points. Exclusive, iconic Kobe Bryant photo made into $100,000 NFT by world-renowned photographer. People, stop propping this guy up as he's the greatest person in the world. Give us a break. Let's go back to the rape allegations. Why did he settle? Something happened. Again, the regular season is just an exhibition for most of these guys, especially today. They're out just freaking partying, promoting themselves. They don't give a shit. It's only when the playoffs start that you actually see some potential for real basketball play. Guy's apparently an asshole. Sorry he's dead, but they're turning around and propping him up like he's a god or something. Come on. You're valuing somebody for their ability to be athletic on a basketball court versus their actual conduct in society, which is the best example you can give for children and other kids. Here's an interesting one from SB Nation. Giants and Yurok Tribe Brewery make history. Says the Giants will be partnering with Mad River Brewing, owned and operated by the Yurok Tribe, for the 2022 season. It's going to be the first major sports partnership with a tribal brewery. Well, good for them. If they produce a great product and are able to meet the demands of what the Giants need at their stadiums and events, good for them. That's what business is all about. Their profits are probably going to explode now because if people like their beer, guess what? They're going to be buying it on the side, not just at games. Essentially Sports is reporting Grayson Allen, who nearly ended Alex Caruso's career, gets the worst night of his life, courtesy of a loud Chicago Bulls crowd. Well, if you don't know, Grayson Allen is the Duke player who was the dirty player in college, and now apparently they're claiming he's a dirty player in the pros. It's had some incidents on the court already. It says Grayson Allen has been in the NBA for 3 years now. He's established a reputation for himself, and not particularly a good one. The guard from Milwaukee Bucks is often disgraced for his rough and dirty style of play. Fans as well as players have clarified that they do not condone such an attitude on the court, although Allen obviously does not have any intentions to hurt somebody yet. His rough style of play is quite intentional. His rowdy and aggressive playing style brings him into a lot of criticism, and fans have often called Allen out and showed their dissent towards him. So when they played the Chicago Bulls, they were obviously showing the flagrant on Alex Caruso prior to the game. So he was welcomed with hostility from the Chicago Bulls fans. They cheered and booed him before the game and every time he touched the ball during the game. Says the players also did not hold back, and they made sure that they had forgotten the foul on Caruso. They replied in kind with the same level of aggression. So Jones, a player, set up his foul on Allen after the game. He goes, "You all trying to make something? It ain't. It's basketball. I'm not a dirty player. What happened to Milwaukee, we didn't like it, but I'm not going to go out there and try to take the man out." Well, just go back to the days of the Detroit Pistons and see what those guys did. They were totally ripping people's heads off every time they came into the lane and aggressive, hard fouls all the time. Today's league, they don't even touch the guy. I'm not saying go out and wipe a guy out, but they don't want to lose anybody. It's a lot of money they're making on the court, you know? So it's that unwritten rule, unless you're the Detroit Pistons where your entire team is destroying people. If it's a single individual, then it's another story. Also from Essentially Sports, Bengal legend Chad Johnson drops a dime on Amari Cooper's release. This is a business and how they get you off the books. Cowboys had signed Cooper to a 5-year, $100 million deal in 2020, but might be looking to trigger an escape clause in his contract. It states his status with the franchise has been in doubt since their disappointing wildcard loss against the San Francisco 49ers. Johnson believes Cooper is being sacrificed for the benefit of the franchise as it will help them clear out almost $16 million in salary cap space. He argues that the wide receiver is still producing decent numbers considering how less he was a target for catches last season. So on Twitter, he has the touches decreased so that they can say the production wasn't worthy of the salary. Nothing wrong with Amari. So it says the franchise remains $13 million above the salary cap amid concerns about filling empty slots. They might look to re-sign Michael Gallup with the money they free up trading or releasing Cooper. They could use it to keep Gallup as a backup for Lamb. People, as long as Jerry Jones is involved in any of the player personnel, the Cowboys aren't going anywhere. He has the Jimmy Johnson curse. Jimmy Johnson built all their championships. Switzer just took advantage of it on what he built, and it's burning up Jerry Jones. He hasn't done nothing since. There's also a quote here. It says, Cowboy owners Jerry Jones gives brutal verdict on Amari Cooper. He should take half the field with him when he runs a route. Well, the stupid idiot gave him all that money. What were they thinking? All these players are overpaid. Every sport, period. According to Seahawks Wire, the Washington Commanders make strong offer for Russell Wilson. Well, we're going to see what happens with that. Does he really want to come over and play for Schneider, the owner? With all the allegations going on in this franchise, they're a fucking mess. All Steelers reports Aaron Rodgers named Steelers as potential landing spot. Why would he want to go from a smallest market to another small market? He's probably eyeing up some big city area because he's at the twilight of his career now. He can play probably at a high level for 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years. He's got to take advantage of that. I still think, or the other American View still thinks, Tom Brady's gone. So that team is still a playoff contender for the Super Bowl. It wouldn't surprise me if he wants to go to Tampa. But then again, they could say, oh, well, you walked into a team that was built that Brady won with and you didn't win. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Maybe Houston, big city, warmer weather. Maybe the Miami Dolphins in Florida. And hell, why not? I know they got a quarterback in Chicago, but go to Chicago. According to Meaw, MEAWW.com, growing fears that Putin may use WNBA star Brittany Griner as hostage after arrest in Russia. Brittany Griner, 31, was detained at the airport after officials found vape cartridges that contained hashish oil in her luggage. Fantastic. Let's find out why she was in that country in the first place. says there's growing fears that President Putin will use Griner as a high-profile hostage following her arrest in Moscow. The basketball star was detained last month after the Russian Federation Customs Service allegedly found vape cartridges that contained hashish oil in her luggage. 7-time WNBA star center for the Phoenix Mercury and 2-time Olympic gold medalist had flown in to play for her Russian local basketball team during a WNBA off-season when she was detained by airport authorities. Now, there are concerns that Russia may use Griner as leverage owing to the rapidly deteriorating relations between the U.S. and Russia following Putin's invasion of the Ukraine. It says if found guilty of drug smuggling charges she faces, Griner may be sentenced to up to 10 years in prison. If we want her out of jail, Russia is going to have some terms. Evelyn Farkas, former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia and Ukraine, told Yahoo Sports, "It could be a prisoner swap. They could use it as an implicit threat or blackmail to get us to do something or not. Either way, they find it useful." There you go, all for the almighty vaping and marijuana use. Plus, you're going to another country, a volatile country, to play basketball. But she went there. She should have educated herself on the laws of that country before she did anything. I would have probably found a safer country to play basketball in, even if it means taking a pay cut. But people, as we advocate all the time, once you leave the U.S., guess what? You're on your own. Don't expect the United States to go protect you or get you. Otherwise, we'd be retrieving thousands and maybe even up to millions of people in other countries. Sorry, it's not the case. You're on your own. You made that decision. According to Sportsnaut, new NFL stipulation will impact Denver Broncos sale. It says the bidding war for the majority ownership of the Denver Broncos is expected to feature plenty of billionaires and household names competing with one another. In order to get the NFL's approval, though, a stipulation must be met. NFL owners are part of an exclusive club, both receiving the status of owning a professional football team and benefiting from record-setting revenues the league enjoys. Because of everything it offers, bids for any future clubs that are put up for sale are expected to start at $4 billion. Because of the exclusivity and demand, the NFL is taking precautions with who it lets join the exclusive group. It's led to the Denver Broncos reportedly being informed of a stipulation that potentially investors must meet to buy the franchise. According to Daniel Kaplan of The Atlantic, the NFL is requesting any proposals to buy the Broncos must be fully capitalized when they are submitted. As Kaplan explains, recent sales of teams led to bidders scrambling to solidify their financial bids. Under the league's new stipulation, all of that would need to be taken care of before the official offer is submitted. So Kaplan writes that any potential buyer will need to approximately have $2.5 billion in cash available immediately. As a result, it could have significant impact on what group is able to successfully land the Denver franchise. One thing is for certain, the winning bid will be the most anyone has ever paid for an American sports franchise. Well, you know what's going to come out about this. There is going to be now even greater accusations of racism because they're going to sit there and state that there are no African Americans that are potentially going to be able to come up with the $2.5 billion in cash available immediately. They're going to say it's a suppressive tactic and how they allowed this to happen for years for other white groups to invest and buy a team, and now this is going to suppress a minority ownership. Mark our words, that's probably what you're going to hear come out of this. And then with everything going on with Coach K being in his last season, there's all kinds of articles out there. So Clutch Points has an interesting one. The best NBA players to ever play for Coach K at Duke. Let's take a quick peek at this. So they have at number 7, Zion Williamson. Well, the guy's got to stay healthy on the court in the NBA to show that he is a bona fide NBA player. He should be and has been when he did play, but let's see what happens with his future. At 6, Brandon Ingram. So he apparently entered the NBA at 19 after being selected by the Lakers, 2nd overall in the 2016 draft. He's averaged at least 16 points every season, and he's only getting better. At number 5 is Jason Tatum. He's become a franchise cornerstone for the Celtics. At number 4 is Elton Brand. He was able to average 20 points and 10 rebounds for the Bulls. He also continued on with at least 18 points and 10 rebounds per contest while shooting 49% for the field during that stretch of 5 consecutive seasons. At 3 is Shane Battier. He had an NBA career, but they only talk about his defensive capabilities in the NBA, nothing offensively. Number 2 is Kyrie Irving. He's won a ring with the Cavaliers in 2016, but this one is skewed because his tenure with the Duke Blue Devils was only 11 games. Number 1 is Grant Hill, the GOAT Duke NBA player, it says. Well, Grant Hill, yeah, he should be number 1. I'm just shocked that Christian Laettner is not on this list. He couldn't slip in over Elton Brand, and Elton Brand is kind of high there. Zion's not totally proven. He's got to stay on the court. Granted, Laettner's numbers in the NBA probably weren't the greatest, but he was selected to the Dream Team, so I guess a little bit of a slap in the face for him. But at the end of the day, who really cares? Because the NBA is watered down street ball garbage today anyway. It's one of the reasons why Coach K had to get out. It's this one and done mentality. Nobody listens to you. It's street ball. It's all for the almighty dollar. Time for sports. NBA Power Rankings by Bleacher Report has the Phoenix Suns number 1, Miami Heat number 2, John Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies number 3, 76ers number 4, Golden State Warriors number 5, Milwaukee Bucks number 6, Celtics at 7, Mavericks at 8, Utah Jazz at 9, Chicago Bulls at 10, Jokic and the Denver Nuggets at 11, LeBron-less Cavaliers 12, Minnesota Timberwolves at 13, Toronto Raptors at 14, and the Atlanta Hawks rounding out the top 15 at 15. All the rest, who cares? As we always state, the NBA regular season is a joke. It's party land, fun time, self-promoting time. The real basketball starts, if you want to call it real basketball, when the playoffs hit, where we can enjoy a bunch of carrying, sideway two-step travels, back travels, carrying, palming, hopping, jumping, all illegal stuff. So it's great the NBA is like this, just watching people chuck up three-point bombs. Sportsnet Power Rankings have the Colorado Avalanche first, Carolina Hurricanes second, Tampa Bay Lightning third, Florida Panthers fourth, and the Calgary Flames fifth. New York Rangers 6th, Toronto Maple Leafs 7, St. Louis Blues 8th, Pittsburgh Penguins 9th, Minnesota Wild 10th, Boston Bruins 11th, Vegas Golden Knights 12th, Los Angeles Kings are 13th, Washington Capitals are 14th. Rounding out the 15 is the Nashville Predators at 15th. So just like the NBA, the regular season is, again, except it's not self-promoting like the NBA is, and probably less partying, but it's just a stat-driven season for the NHL. So many times you see a 7th and sometimes I thought even an 8th seeded team winning the Stanley Cup. But that's the way these leagues are designed. The regular season is virtually means almost nothing. But we'll see how this all shakes out when the playoffs hit. We did give out the MLS Power Rankings on our last podcast, still a little bit early in the season to continue with the speculation of what's going to happen. We did it because it's basically a preseason preview, but we will update you from time to time on the Power Rankings for the MLS. And stay tuned for our next podcast after the late weeks and weekend shakeout of the men's and women's NCAA games. See how that impacts the AP poll. So that's going to do it for today's show. We hope you enjoyed it. Please go to theotheramericanview.com and send us your feedback. And remember, if you want to be on the show and have an email read, just send us an email through theotheramericanview.com. You want to come on the show and voice your view, have a rant, again, theotheramericanview.com, as well as if you want to debate a guest, please send us an email. And for this show to have continued success, please go to Patreon, The Other American View, and see what tier is right for you. Please go to Twitter and follow us. And wherever you're listening to our podcast, please like us. Again, tell all your friends and spread the word. There's a podcast out there for you and your voice. The Audience Participation Podcast, The Other American View.